semana, semana assistir você. De semana, semana assim eu estarei. Que nada, assim. Timba, ah, 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 ah.
500, 400, 300.
Um avião da companhia taiwanesa Transasia Airways caiu nesta quarta-feira com 58 pessoas a bordo. Um vídeo amador filmou o acidente sobre um viaduto na região de Taipei. A aeronave, que fazia um voo doméstico, bateu numa ponte antes de tocar em
Lá no
rio.
fundo.
Veja o momento exato do choque.
Pá!
As imagens foram divulgadas pela TVBS Taiwan. O coordenador das operações de resgate informou que pelo menos 27 sobreviventes foram resgatados. Entre eles estão crianças. O número de mortos ainda é incerto. A queda aconteceu poucos minutos depois que o avião
Foi
decolou do
bosta no
aeroporto de
resgate.
Chongshan com destino à ilha de Kinmen. Foi o segundo acidente da companhia aérea em pouco mais de 6 meses.
Ai! Doeu. Pegou na tralha. Olha aqui, ó. Frank Angle! Frank! Ah! Uma chola, chola. Tá, puxa aqui, pu, pu, pam, bam, 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 miau, mau, 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 mau.
Mas você tá tentando acertar muito, velho. Não dá, velho. Moleque, antes de começar lá, eu falei, tenta e vai. Aí você ficou pra mim, os caras foram pra lá. Aí você começou bem na hora. Ah, que cara cagado, velho. Esse Mika tá muito cagado, viado. Mano, eu nunca vi um cara cagado igual o Mika com essa MP dele, velho. O Mika ficou com 6 de vida pra mim, velho. Ele tá muito cagado com essa UP. Fica vendo, você vai mostrar aí, ó. Tô falando. Aí, ó. Nossa, vai mostrar. Ele vai dar a volta. Ah, não, tá igual aqui. Ele vai aparecer aí. Apareceu. Nossa, só a 12 aí cagado também. Já olhou aqui? Nossa, tô falando, velho.
Eu tava assim, ó. Eu tava olhando pra baixo.
Com medo do Mika, filho.
Olha isso. Eu vi.
Eu nunca vi, velho.
Meu
Nunca vi
Deus.
Nossa, que cara cuzão, viado. Os caras comemoraram a primeira vitória. O cara comemorou a primeira vitória jogando desse jeito. Nossa, eu não sabia que tinha MP40. Nossa, agora eles estão fodidas. Mano, se os caras não morrerem pra mim, mano, vou até se matar, Gustavo. MP40 na minha mão, pode vir os dois de uma vez. Olha lá, os dois tá comigo na esquerda. Sorocaba tá comigo. Nossa, humilhado. Artista do capa. Tô falando, viado. MP40 na minha mão é ignorante. Deixa o Mika vir aqui. Deixa o Mika vir aqui. Tô falando, filho. Mika tá indo embora. Vem aqui, Mika.
Peguei que eu tinha um paraquedas eu não peguei.
Calma. Da puta. Fica dando aí.
Most realistic ever Lego build was. I'm recreating major plane crashes with my most realistic ever Lego build. Well, this time we are going exactly where the disasters happen. I have never traveled this much for a video, but this experience turned out much more emotional and chilling than I ever expected. Oh wait, it can't be a piece of the plane. Imagine the largest airliner of the 80s disintegrating over towns in the UK. What's most unsettling to me about going to Lockerbie is that this was the biggest crime scene in the world. Imagine the largest airliner of the 80s disintegrating over towns in the UK. What's most unsettling to me about going to Lockerbie is that this was the biggest crime scene in the world. Due to a change in wind patterns, Pan Am Flight 103 flew further over Scotland, leaving a trail of evidence that was meant to vanish into the Atlantic. And we're not just recreating crashes in the UK, because how did I travel all over Europe with a meter-long Concorde and this even bigger Soviet passenger beast? Oh, but these weigh nothing compared to this mighty structure of a larger 747 I'm designing. I've remastered this so many times before, so is it possible to perfect this sharp-angled wing design? Well, I'm surprised I might have enough parts to create my longest, most substantial 747 fuselage. Oh yes, this is not just a rebuild of my Tenerife Pan Am, but a cooler step up in scale. Jeez, I can already see how guilty I'll feel destroying this beauty, and remember, I'm going to recreate a violent mid-air breakup, so we need to deck out the clipper with dense galleys, extreme seating capacity, and even toilet units, all to come down in the real Lockerbie, like the real crash, which is pretty crazy to think about, because all these details like the realistic engines and even an upper deck aim to add to the accuracy and truth of one of my most daunting recreations, all adding to our respect towards the victims of the infamous clipper made of the seas, and those who were never even meant by the bomb makers to be part of this tragedy. Clipper made of the seas, and those who were never even meant by the bomb makers to be part of this tragedy, the 11 lives taken in Lockerbie, which is where we're heading now. Straight north of the British Isles, all because of a chain of evil that caused the biggest UK plane crash. Now nothing could stop the detonation as Flight 103 pulls its 239 occupants and its bomb out of the void of the longest winter night, December 21st, as it climbed to enter cruise altitude at Pole Hill VOR, located just east of Burnley, where the captain reduced thrust for the flight to New York just 8 minutes before disintegration. For an enhanced viewing experience, I'll reconstruct the accident sequence in daylight for you, as the Lockerbie road signs indicate the journey's almost over for both me and the clipper. The beauty of this landscape is about to deteriorate. We entered the town seeing typical housing estates that almost felt surreal, entirely because of the history held where I'm stood. But the destruction of both me and the clipper. The beauty of this landscape is about to deteriorate. We entered the town seeing typical housing estates that almost felt surreal, entirely because of the history held where I'm stood. But the destruction was most nightmarish at Sherwood Crescent. It feels most unreal visiting where this world-famous horror scene was engraved into history. Today is St. Paul Memorial Garden, a contrasting shadow of what my greatest Lego 747 is about to endure. Tucked in the side of the forward fuselage at the side of the container is the radio filled with a mere 400 grams of explosives, but the cargo hold magnifies the blast. The cabin power and the CBR instantly cause the shockwaves destroy the forward airframe. Clouds of debris impact the fan blades, and 3 seconds have passed when the front breaks off, deflects to the right, striking engine 3 and detaching it from its pylon. A sickening loss of pressure and hurricane force winds make many victims unconscious and disintegrate the unstable structures. Within 5 seconds, the violent left roll intensifies and becomes a vertical dive at a still dizzying 19,000 feet. Fluttering of the rudder splits the stabilizer, causing heavy yaws left to right, which separates all remaining engines. These forces induced by the yaws separate the back of the plane, and the air becomes breathable at 9,000 feet when 60 feet of fuselage splits off, leaving the full wings and 40 feet of passenger aisles to impact the place where we stood, the largest crash site in the UK, which I will try to perfectly recreate. The flight crew fall in and out of consciousness as the nose descends miles away onto Tundergarth Hill, the most famous part of the maid's wreckage. It lay visible from the church and a farm from where an ex-midwife comes to find a flight attendant with a weak pulse. Away onto Tundergarth Hill, the most famous part of the maid's wreckage. It lay visible.
Porque ele. Mano, os caras tá muito bom jogando de capa perto, mano. Boa. Minha ela tá espalhando um pouco, mas, nossa senhora, teve uma que eu atirei no mica, viado, parecia regedite, o bagulho grudou assim na cabeça, ó.
From the church and a farm from where an ex-midwife comes to find a flight attendant with a weak pulse.
Essas
Then
loucas, velho.
unfortunately came the
Parecia
most
que,
powerful
mano,
impact
o
in
bagulho
Lockerbie,
puxou assim,
covering the
ficou tudo
whole of
vermelho,
Sherwood
assim, ó.
Crescent. So
Não
we
teve
can't
nem a
just have
mira
a
que
couple of
abriu.
semi-detached Scottish
Foi
homes.
tudo
I'm
assim,
building
ó.
my best scale replica of the entire street with home designs like they were before the bombing. After 46 unbearable seconds, the 747 fuselage completely disintegrated with 3 holes.
Tá comigo. Ronica.
Carrying all the fuel needed to reach
Me deu
New York, the fuel tanks ignited fireballs, reaching terrible heights and engulfing all surrounding homes, burning their roofs to ashes. Sherwood Crescent was now an uninhabitable environment, and another street was also in danger, as the 60-foot aft cabin section holding 61 passengers was about to impact this terrace on Rosebank Crescent. So with 11 ground fatalities at Sherwood, was the bombing about to take many more? Here I've recreated the 4 Rosebank homes, giving this corner one a full interior, which the raining debris is about to expose. The wreckage here is extreme, but the residents of this home narrowly survived, and there was no fuel here to burn. But with 270 lives lost at December 1988, this remains the worst UK terror attack. Recreating crashes where they happened is a lot more complicated if I fly to another country. The USSR, they just created the world's largest airliner, calling it the Ilyushin IL-62. But Clark's Polish airlines pilots would soon call them flying coffins. Yes, this one I'm making was Poland's very first IL-62, and you'll soon notice the feature that makes this plane unusually intimidating. But how did 2 of these crash for a concerningly similar reason, both in the 1980s? So with this giant tail, let's leave the country. No, not on a jet to holiday, but on board this Ryanair 737 as we blast our way out of England. And 2 hours later, I'm in the nation where I somehow have to build these planes from scratch to later visit the crash sites and destroy my builds. But it was this manufacturing by the Soviet Union that led to many of the 23 IL-62 crashes. A neglected mistake in this one exposed how dangerous these planes really were. With a full interior and this intricate nose design, this is almost as accurate as possible, even with this clean custom back, where the most iconic but also most dangerous parts of this plane are mounted. Before Lot's first IL-62 was delivered, a tool had left a deep scratch on a shaft that supports the turbines in Engine 2. With every heavy flight, the cracks expanded at takeoff power, so the whole engine structure became more and more unstable, until one flight to Warsaw, seated at 6 hours away from my apartment, but let's accept the challenge anyway. At 4 a.m. on an arid August morning, we set off to exhaust this hire car, and as a Polish person, this trip through the whole country was very magnificent. And so were the winter views from Lot's Flight 007, because it's time for it to descend onto Warsaw. After the long flight from New York, its 87 occupants are oblivious of the danger as the landing gear extends, because from the crew's perspective, they might have to prepare for a belly landing as the gear position light is not illuminated. They need to know whether it's extended, so allow the ATC to look at it as they increase the engines to full go-around power. The corroded engine shaft is forced past its limit. Turbine disc disintegrates, shooting rapid debris into the engine beside the failed one, destroying it too and causing asymmetric thrust, which veers the plane to the right. They attempt to level out, but a turbine fragment has penetrated the fuselage and severed control rods connecting to wall stabilizers. The fragment had then struck engine 3, depriving the plane of even more power, causing a descent and a pitch down, which no controls.
Algo que na profissão. Suplemento ideal para que você atinja a forma física desejada de uma forma.
Depriving the plane of even more power, causing a descent and a pitch down which no controls could pull it out of. It was now about to impact the Okerche Fort. Well, it's a moat of water around a business park that says it's private property. So let's quickly recreate this image where the IL-62 first impacted, but severed this wing part, which sent it into a greater roll, barely clipping the buildings and crashing onto the side of the 19th century moat structure. Well, I suppose it's most accurate if I also recreate the final impact in the water. Beside it is this large commemorative brick structure with art of the disaster on the back. Lot 007 disintegrated on the bank before it plunged into the shallow, still water with force that took all 87 lives. In that March of 1980, this was all frozen over, but you can see how the impact shattered the ice.
No, this story wasn't over. An even worse tragedy begins once the upgraded IL-62M is delivered to the devastated airline 3 years later. But what should have felt heavy guilt after a history of overusing engines way past their structural lifetime, and after economic crisis in Soviet Poland, an urge to cut costs indirectly caused Poland's worst plane crash here outside the Kabatsky Forest, where the horror 7 years prior is going to repeat, but more serious. As Lot Flight 5055, this time departing Warsaw, has almost 100 more people than Flight 007. But this time there weren't any careless engine scratches, but there were half of the required roller bearings in the fateful engine 2, causing double the stress and friction, which left the engine one full power away from collapsing. As the Ilyushin flew well over the town of Grudziądz, military planes were training ahead, requiring the plane to climb higher to avoid the collision. The bearings heat rapidly past 1,000 degrees. History had repeated itself. Shards disabled the adjacent engine and sever flight controls, but as they pull hard on the yoke, the rudder seems to still work. Unlike the last crash, they can fly the plane, but their elevator control is very limited, and this time there's chaos in the cabin as more hot shards penetrate the walls, causing a decompression and embedding into the flammable wooden cargo floor, soon to be the cause of all fatalities. The stretch back to Warsaw is long, but they're successfully navigating. The landing gear is completely stuck, but a crash landing at Warsaw is the option the pilots hesitantly choose. Now 40 seconds from a fiery hard landing, they enter this forest, which today has many things from the crash. Here at Ground Zero, there are every occupant's names, and I noticed a tree with burn marks. And further away, a chunk of scrap metal. Do you think it's wreckage of the IL-62 that's now drowning in flames that have consumed the inside and spread to the cabin? The 31 minutes of emergency flights was hopeless as the back of the plane began disintegrating, abruptly pitching the plane downward as it dived to clear out hundreds of trees. Even after the Soviets left and Lot purchased 767s 2 years later, these twin disasters must not be forgotten. Well, there's two more twin disasters crashing so close together, I've never even been to France. But there's so much to discover at the crash sites of the Concorde and the Soviet supersonic jet. These are probably going to be my most impactful recreations. Right now, it is the 5th of May. Oh, this video's going to take so long. Well, I might be about to get this really cheap Concorde. How this works. And it indeed did work. I picked up my jet that I will fly to Paris with, and it's longer than I remembered. Of course, we need to whitewash this Lego set and revamp features like the interior and a fresh livery, because I've already recreated Air France Flight 4590, but I can do so much better now, with much more detail. That's all just going to get packed into this suitcase, as we're on a mission I doubt anyone in the world has ever done before. And you can see that I don't know if I'll be able to take this into the plane, but I don't know. I hope travel safe. Well, of course, we've got to fly the airline of our crash recreation. Sadly, not on a Concorde, but on Air France's beloved Airbus A220, where I somehow have to squeeze in my meter-long Concorde, and the flight crew was somehow fine with that. So we're now on our way to the biggest crash sites in Paris, landing at the biggest airport in the European Union. Charles de Gaulle Airport was pretty hectic. Wow, a random Concorde is an average sight here, but it's now going to undergo a one-of-a-time conversion into a more dangerous aircraft. The Tupolev Tu-144 was the very first supersonic airliner to enter service and the first to leave it. My first ever Aeroflot build carries the Soviet flag it flew against the Concorde in the 1973 Paris Air Show. Everyone remembers the Concorde, but this beast known as the Concordski was bigger, faster and louder. With all its safety restrictions removed for its performance, Captain Mikhail Kozlov said, "Just wait until you see us fly, then you'll see something," to the Concorde pilots competing. And he was right. Thousands of people were about to see a catastrophic breakup directly here onto the town of Goussainville. This road here, a centre point of the impacts that was about to hit many residents, and outside of this school, you can't imagine that supersonic plane wreckage impaled this road. After the disintegration, I'm recreating where it happened. Something I didn't even know was here is this very neatly kept crash memorial beside the main road, all because the Tu-144 was executing more demanding maneuvers than the Concorde with its gigantic engines before stunning the crowd with a sweeping low pass over the runway with its long front canards extended. As it approaches the end of the runway, the grounds of the airshow rumble as Concordski hits full power in all four engines for a steep climb. They retract the canards for an even more shocking than concerningly extreme climb. The Tupolev begins stalling. It's speculated this stunt avoided collision with the photography plane, but it was nowhere near. Engines begin flaming out in the disturbed airflow. They desperately deploy the K-nods again to regain some control, but as they pull up harder, the negative G-forces overstress the flawed plane past its limit. The left wing broke away and the aircraft snapped rolled left and stresses fractured the inverted fuselage. Giant segments of the Tu-144 immediately crashed onto Gousainville straight below, so to make my recreation most accurate...
Para, vedor.
Interessante, até mudou o clima. Tu-144 immediately crashed onto Gousainville straight below, so to make my recreation most accurate, all I have to do is take a look around me. Warm faded colours were addressed to build these French homes, unchanged since the crash, but the nose section of the plane was about to carve out the empty gap in the street where it stood right now. The largest fragment then wiped out more homes, bringing it to a total of 15 houses destroyed, 8 people lost on the ground, and 60 Gousainville residents received injuries from the crash. Only 55 passenger flights were carried out on the Tu-144 before service ended due to safety concerns. The unkillable Concorde had made it out of the airshow alive. The public would never anticipate that the Concorde will have a far more tragic disaster 27 years later, but just 2 shockingly short miles away. The town of Gonesse, muffled under constant Charles de Gaulle departures, is the place I'm staying, so it's just a 20-minute walk to the infamous hotel that
É o
Concorde crashed
mesmo
into.
lugar.
I'm very intrigued to see
O
what I can
hotel.
get up to in person, as on Google Earth you can vaguely see outlines of the hotel rooms. This gate was not here on Street View. Well, this is the Le Relais Bleu Hotel, the second hotel that was right beside the flattened one, and yes, I've managed to get onto the side of this building I've come all the way from England to
Local do
visit. I'm
acidente.
stunned to immediately see signs from the extinct hotel meters from where Air France Flight 4590 famously crashed, but things were only just beginning. The Concorde accelerates with 1.2 tons of extra fuel that should have been burned during taxiing, putting the centre of gravity abnormally far back, and 500 kilograms of last-minute luggage weighs the Concorde past its certified structural weight. But nothing would have happened without this sharp engine cowling scrap fallen from a DC-10, which Continental Airlines would be criminally charged for. At 500 kilometers per hour, 4 kilograms of sliced Concorde tire is thrown up, impacting the left wing and gushing fuel from the tank, which heat and electrics ignite. Way past the V1 speed, they make the difficult decision to attempt taking off, but began rotation too early as the aircraft veered off center. It felt like there was something holding it back, maybe all the additional weight, but Concorde was climbing, yet still slipping left. The Concorde now reaches a max altitude of just 200 feet because both left engines are damaged and one is turned off completely. It will soon reach the place of this well-known memorial built beside the crash site, so let's see what remains. These gates apparently only open every anniversary, and we've unfortunately just missed 25 years after the disaster, but I'll still have a look over, and it's been entirely left flat. All I can make out is the corner shape of the hotel I will soon exactly replicate. An uncommanded roll begins. Control systems have melted, as well as a landing gear mechanism that cannot retract. It's catching heavy drag, causing them to begin to descend. Quite quickly, the left banking increases to a staggering 118-degree roll. So to level it out, thrust is tragically reduced, and the functioning engines on the other side at just 25 feet, dropping flight 4590 out of the air and soon obliterating this forgotten hotel, which I've only seen on this ancient YouTube video, nowhere else on the internet. But this hotel was just meters away from not existing here beside me today, so it's pretty surreal assembling its walls, roof, and the signature lettering on top while seeing it all with my own eyes. But lost to history is this building I'm going to try and make just as it was, with those colours, stairs, and I've printed all the stuff for the Hotel Hotelissimo, which I will give a full interior with a reception, the restaurant they advertised, and all the hotel rooms that Concorde will plunge straight through. So I'm putting Hotelissimo and Le Relais Bleu both here within their own real hotel grounds to pay a sincere tribute with my Air France 4590 remastered.
Lipone!
Hotel receptionist managed to escape through the main exit with burn injuries before the blaze consumed
No!
the scale of the fires cannot be contained, and they destroy it all, as well as claiming the life of
Que?
the hotel. All one
Por que isso aconteceu?
members. The difficulties in managing and affording Concorde flights made the Concorde retire forever 3 years later. I'm sure it's clear this is my most expensive video ever, so a like, sub and comment is all you can give me for building and travelling for weeks straight. And be sure to watch the deleted scenes and unique trip reports in the behind the scenes video. What crashes should I recreate where they happened next? Thank you.
When it came time to take things to the next level, I knew that I had to make a website, and Wix was perfect for that. I'm Josh Harmon.
Se vir assim, parece que ele tá caindo.
Veja a simulação da queda do avião da Voipaz devido à possível formação de gelo. Veja a simulação da queda do avião da Voipaz.
Foi nesse momento. Foi nesse momento que os aviões se aproximam e colidem. O winglet, a ponta da asa do jatinho, que é curvada para cima, cortou a asa do avião da Gol como uma navalha. Isso a uma velocidade relativa de 1.900 km por hora. Isso é, somando as velocidades do avião e faltando somente 23 minutos para o pouso. O nariz do avião da Gol rapidamente se inclinou para baixo e foi perdendo altitude rapidamente. Os alarmes começaram a soar à torta e à direita. Sem um terço da asa esquerda, o avião da Gol começou a girar em parafuso, enquanto os pilotos tentavam retomar o controle, mas sem a asa esquerda não tinha nada que eles pudessem fazer. O avião seguiu em um mergulho vertical por 63 segundos, rompendo a barreira do som e desintegrando a estrutura. do avião ainda no ar. Devido ao
Mãe, tô
rodopio no ar, a força G foi tanta que é muito provável que as pessoas já estivessem inconscientes mesmo antes do impacto. Então eles colidiram com o chão. Em 10 segundos, a velocidade do jatinho foi reduzida de 850 km por hora para menos de 540 e começou a girar em parafuso enquanto os pilotos tentaram retomar o controle, mas sem a asa esquerda não tinha nada que eles pudessem fazer. O avião seguiu em um mergulho vertical por 63 segundos, rompendo a barreira do som e desintegrando a estrutura do avião ainda no ar. Devido ao rodopio no ar, a força G foi tanta que é muito provável que as pessoas já estivessem inconscientes mesmo antes do impacto. Então eles colidiram com o chão. Em 10 segundos, a velocidade do jatinho foi reduzida de 850 km por hora para menos de 540 km por hora, uma redução notável para a velocidade de cruzeiro. O Lepore, um dos pilotos do jatinho, disse: "Que diabos foi isso?" O Paladino respondeu: "Tudo bem, só pilota o avião." Foi nesse momento que os aviões se aproximam e colidem. O winglet, a ponta da asa do jatinho, que é curvada para cima, quebrou. Quebrou. Vai quebrar. Tu é doido, é, moço?
As últimas palavras do piloto do avião, que caiu em Vinhedos, chocam a todos. A nação está em luto e choque após a divulgação das últimas palavras do piloto do avião, que caiu tragicamente em uma área de Vinhedos. A gravação final da cabine, agora tornada pública pelas autoridades aeronáuticas, revelou detalhes emocionantes e trágicos dos momentos finais antes do desastre, causando uma profunda comoção em todo o país. A gravação da cabine do piloto, repleta de tensão e urgência para salvar a aeronave e seus passageiros. As gravações mostram que o piloto estava ciente da gravidade da situação, mas ainda assim tentou manter a calma e seguir os procedimentos de emergência. Ele comunicou à torre de controle que a aeronave estava perdendo altitude. As últimas palavras
Esse é o DJ ZRX, é o braço da putaria.
Todo vídeo, tchau, tchau.